The lunch whistle blows at noon, and inside the break room of a steel mill in Pittsburgh, a man opens a metal lunchbox his wife packed before dawn. There's no cafeteria here, no vending machines, no drive-through down the street, just whatever you could carry from home. For millions of American factory workers in the decades after World War II, mealtime wasn't about luxury or choice. It was about stretching a dollar until it screamed, feeding a family on wages that barely covered the rent, and making sure there was something, anything, to fuel another shift on the line. These weren't the meals you'd find in a magazine or see on a television commercial. These were the meals that kept America running, one shift at a time. Today, we're counting down 10 budget meals factory workers ate to make ends meet. Some of these might bring back memories, others might surprise you, but all of them tell the story of people who knew how to survive. Number 10, the bologna sandwich. It didn't look like much, but the bologna sandwich was as common in a factory lunchbox as a time card. 2 slices of white bread, a couple rounds of bologna, maybe a smear of mustard if you were lucky. No lettuce, no tomato, no cheese. Those cost extra. Bologna was cheap. It kept without refrigeration for most of a shift, and it filled you up just enough to get back to work. Mothers made them by the dozen on Sunday nights, wrapping each one in wax paper and stacking them in the icebox. By midweek, the bread might be a little stale and the bologna might curl at the edges, but nobody complained. This was the sandwich that built the Rust Belt. It didn't matter if you worked in Detroit or Gary or Youngstown. If you packed a lunch, you packed bologna. Over time, as processed meats fell out of favor and health warnings piled up, the bologna sandwich became a relic. But for a generation of workers, it was the taste of getting by. Number 9, beans and cornbread. If you worked the evening shift and needed something hot before you left the house, chances are your wife made beans and cornbread. A pot of pinto beans could simmer all day on a back burner, costing almost nothing and feeding a family of 6. You'd add a little salt pork or bacon grease if you had it, maybe an onion if the budget allowed. The cornbread came together with cornmeal, a little flour, an egg, and some buttermilk, ingredients so basic they were in every cupboard. It wasn't fancy, but it was filling, and it stuck to your ribs through a long night in the factory. This was Southern food that traveled north during the Great Migration, carried by families looking for work in the industrial cities. It became a staple in places like Chicago, Cleveland, and Cincinnati, where Southern transplants worked the same grueling hours as everyone else. You could make it stretch for days, reheating the beans and crumbling leftover cornbread into your bowl. It wasn't the kind of meal anyone bragged about, but it was honest food that did its job. As convenience foods and fast options took over, fewer families kept a pot of beans going on the stove, but those who grew up eating beans and cornbread before a shift never forgot it. Number 8, the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. When the grocery money ran short and payday was still 3 days away, the peanut butter and jelly sandwich saved the day. A jar of peanut butter lasted weeks, and a jar of grape jelly wasn't far behind. You could make a PB&J in under a minute. It didn't need to be kept cold, and even the kids would eat it without fussing. Factory workers packed them because they were reliable. No spoilage, no mess, no second guessing. Peanut butter gave you protein and energy, and jelly gave you just enough sweetness to make the long afternoon bearable. It wasn't exciting, and after eating one 5 days in a row, you'd start to dread opening that lunchbox. But when money was tight and mouths needed feeding, the peanut butter and jelly sandwich never let you down. Some guys added bananas if they had a few extra cents, and that small luxury felt like a feast. Others ate them plain year after year because it was all they could afford. The PB&J became so common it was almost invisible, just part of the background noise of working-class life. It's still around today, mostly in school lunchboxes, but it doesn't carry the same weight it once did. For the men and women who relied on it to get through a shift, it was more than a sandwich, it was survival. Number 7, fried potatoes and eggs. Before you left for the 5 o'clock shift, you needed something that would hold you until the break room opened at midnight. Fried potatoes and eggs fit the bill. A few potatoes cost almost nothing, and if you kept chickens in the backyard like plenty of working families did, the eggs were free. You'd slice the potatoes thin, fry them in a cast iron skillet with a little lard or bacon grease, and crack a couple eggs over the top. 10 minutes later, you had a meal that tasted like home and gave you enough fuel to run a punch press or work a conveyor line. This was breakfast for dinner, dinner for breakfast, or lunch if your shift was somewhere in between. Families ate it because it was fast, cheap, and filling, and because everyone knew how to make it without a recipe. Do you remember the sound of potatoes sizzling in a hot pan while your father got ready for work? That smell could wake up a whole house. Over the years, as frozen foods and pre-made meals became the norm, fewer people took the time to fry potatoes from scratch. But in the days when a factory paycheck had to stretch across rent, utilities, and groceries, fried potatoes and eggs were a lifeline.
Number 6. Cabbage and sausage. Cabbage was one of the cheapest vegetables you could buy, and it lasted forever in the icebox. Paired with a little sausage, sometimes just one link sliced thin to make it go further, it became a meal that could feed a family on pennies. You'd chop the cabbage, brown the sausage in a big pot, and let everything cook down together until it was soft and savory. Some families added potatoes to stretch it even more. It wasn't pretty, and it didn't smell like anything you'd want to brag about, but it filled bellies and kept people going. This was the kind of meal that Eastern European immigrants brought with them and passed down through generations of factory workers. In cities like Buffalo, Milwaukee, and Pittsburgh, cabbage and sausage was as common as a union card. You could make a huge batch on Sunday and eat it all week, reheating portions before each shift. The cabbage might turn gray and the sausage might lose its snap, but it still did the job. As tastes changed and people moved away from heavy one-pot meals, cabbage and sausage fell out of fashion. But for those who worked long hours and needed something cheap and dependable, it was a cornerstone of survival. Number 5. Macaroni and tomato sauce. A box of elbow macaroni cost a dime, and a can of tomato sauce wasn't much more. Together, they made a meal that could feed 4 people and leave enough for tomorrow's lunch. You'd boil the macaroni, dump in the sauce, maybe add a little salt and pepper, and call it dinner. Some families fried up a little ground beef if there was money left over, but most of the time it was just noodles and sauce. It wasn't Italian food, it was American poverty food, plain and simple. Factory families ate it because it was fast, it was filling, and it was one of the few meals you could make without much skill or effort. Kids didn't complain because it tasted familiar, and workers didn't complain because it gave them enough energy to make it through the next shift. This was the kind of meal you ate standing up in the kitchen, straight from the pot, because there wasn't time to sit down. Over time, it evolved into boxed macaroni and cheese, which became its own icon of budget eating. But the original version, plain macaroni with plain tomato sauce, was even simpler and even cheaper. It's hard to find anyone who eats it that way anymore, but in the homes of factory workers who lived paycheck to paycheck, it was as regular as clockwork.
Number 4. The leftover stew. Nothing went to waste in a factory worker's household. Every scrap of meat, every potato peel, every carrot end went into the stew pot. By the end of the week, after Sunday's roast and Wednesday's pork chops and Friday's chicken, there'd be a collection of bones and bits that didn't look like much on their own, but simmered together with water, a few vegetables, and maybe a handful of barley or rice, they became something that could stretch across 2 or 3 more meals. This was the ultimate budget meal because it cost almost nothing. It was just the smart use of what you already had. Mothers and wives guarded those stew pots like treasures, adding a little more water when it got low, adjusting the seasoning as it cooked down. The stew tasted different every time because it was made from whatever was left, but that unpredictability was part of the charm. It was warm, it was hearty, and it was proof that you could make do even when the cupboard was nearly bare. Factory workers took leftover stew to work in mason jars or thermoses, reheating it on a radiator or eating it cold if they had to. It wasn't glamorous, but it kept people fed. As refrigeration improved and grocery stores offered more variety, the leftover stew became less common, but it represented something important, a refusal to let anything go to waste and a determination to survive no matter what. Number 3. Liver and onions. Liver was one of the cheapest cuts of meat you could buy, and if you cooked it right, it could pass for a real meal. Factory workers ate liver because it was affordable and because it was packed with iron, something you needed if you were on your feet for 10 or 12 hours a day. Most people didn't love the taste, but they tolerated it because it was better than going hungry. You'd slice the liver thin, dredge it in flour, and fry it up with onions to cover the strong flavor. Served with mashed potatoes or bread, it became dinner for a family of 5 for less than $1. It wasn't the kind of meal anyone looked forward to, but it was dependable. Kids complained and husbands grumbled, but they ate it because that's what was on the table. In some households, liver and onions showed up once a week like clockwork, and everyone knew to brace themselves. The smell alone was enough to clear a room. Over the decades, as people had more choices and didn't have to rely on cheap organ meats, liver disappeared from most dinner tables, but for a generation of factory families, it was part of the rotation, as regular as washing your work clothes or punching a time card. It's almost impossible to find liver and onions on a menu today, and most younger people wouldn't touch it if you paid them, but the workers who choked it down night after night did it because they had no other choice.
Number 2. Cornmeal mush. If you worked the graveyard shift and needed something in your stomach at 3 in the morning, cornmeal mush was the answer. It was just cornmeal, water, and salt, cooked into a thick porridge that you could eat hot or slice and fry once it cooled. It cost almost nothing to make. It filled you up, and it gave you just enough energy to get through the night. Some families poured it into a loaf pan and let it set, then sliced it for breakfast the next day, frying the slices in a little butter or bacon grease. With a drizzle of molasses or a spoonful of jam, it almost tasted like a treat. But most of the time, it was just plain, gritty, bland, and filling. Factory workers ate cornmeal mush because it was one of the cheapest foods you could make, even cheaper than oatmeal or grits. It kept you going when there was nothing else in the cupboard and no money left until payday. This was Depression-era food that stuck around long after the Depression ended because plenty of families were still living like the hard times never left. It wasn't the kind of meal anyone missed when better days came along, but it was the kind of meal that kept people alive when survival was the only goal. Cornmeal mush has mostly disappeared from the American table, replaced by instant oatmeal and cereal boxes, but those who remember it know what it meant. It meant you were getting by, one bowl at a time. Number 1. The fried egg sandwich. At the top of the list is the simplest meal of all, the fried egg sandwich. 2 slices of bread, 1 fried egg, maybe a little salt and pepper. That's it. No butter, no cheese, no bacon, just an egg and bread, put together in less than 5 minutes and eaten on the way out the door. Factory workers relied on the fried egg sandwich because it was fast, cheap, and gave them enough protein to start the day or get through a break. Eggs were one of the most affordable sources of nutrition, and bread was a staple in every household. You didn't need a recipe, you didn't need skill, and you didn't need money. You just needed a pan and a few minutes. Some workers ate fried egg sandwiches every single day for years because it was all they could afford. Others ate them when the paycheck was gone and the pantry was empty. It wasn't exciting, and it certainly wasn't fancy, but it worked. The fried egg sandwich kept millions of American workers through some of the hardest decades of the 20th century. It was there in the Great Depression, it was there during the post-war boom, and it was there when factories started closing and jobs started disappearing. It's still around today, mostly as a fast food breakfast item that costs 5 times what it used to. But the original version, the one made at home in a quiet kitchen before dawn, was something different. It was survival. It was dignity. It was proof that even when everything else was gone, you could still feed yourself and show up for work. These meals weren't the ones that made it into cookbooks or onto television shows. They weren't passed down as treasured family recipes or celebrated in restaurants, but they were real and they mattered. They kept factory workers on their feet, kept families together, and kept America moving forward during times when moving forward was the hardest thing in the world. If you remember packing a lunchbox before dawn or sitting down to a plate of fried potatoes after a long shift or stretching a pound of bologna across a whole week, you're not alone. These meals are part of our history, part of the story of working people who did whatever it took to get by. Drop a comment and tell us which of these meals you remember, or share a memory of what your family ate when money was tight. If you enjoyed this walk through America's working class past, give this video a like and subscribe for more stories about the meals, the moments, and the memories that shaped our country. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.